guys, I don't care what your financial situation is. I don't care if you've got a boatload of debt. I don't care if you're a late starter like me and you're older. It's never too late to right the ship financially. Yeah. And we can circle back, but rule 2, right? Embrace your true expenses. And I love this rule because it's just a wonderful reminder that Christmas falls on December 25th every year, year in, year out.
Yeah.
But somehow or another, in my pre-YNAB life, it was always like, dang, what did January rolls around and now you're faced with the credit card with all the money that you spent on Christmas, trying to figure out how to deal with that mess. And what embrace your true expenses just is it causes you to forward think. Christmas is going to be the same time every year. If you want to spend $600 on Christmas, then cut it up into bite-sized slices and make sure you're putting $50 a month into that category of Christmas. If you want to spend $6,000, great. Then make sure that you're putting $500 a month away for Christmas so that when Christmas comes, it's no big deal. I love Christmas. It's my favorite time of year, and especially now. Car insurance is another one. Car repairs. Most of us are not in the habit of going, well, my car is going to break down 3 months from now, and it's going to be $2,000 because it's a big transmission thing or whatever. Well, if you're embracing your true expenses, which is life happens, mistakes happen, things break, car insurance is due for most people every 6 months. This teaches you to forward think, take a real honest look at what your true expenses are, and then categorize money accordingly so that you don't get surprised and slapped upside the head. Does that make sense?
And what's interesting about this for me, as I'm imagining, is that you're talking about unforeseen future stuff, but the reality is that you don't have to create it out of your imagination. You only have to go back and, as a taxonomy, look over the last 12 to 24 months and see where these surprise things tend to always come up, right? So and to look forward, what you're really doing is you're deriving the data by looking backwards first.
Exactly. And now I know we're leaping ahead a little bit here, but a great example of that is cars. For the foreseeable future, we're going to be driving cars. Okay. Now I bought a new car with cash a couple years ago. And the day I bought my car, obviously my new car category was empty because I spent 60 grand on a new car. Okay. But the very next month, I started putting money aside for my next car, which is going to be 6 years down the road. But when 6 years comes, I'm not going to go, dang, this car is worn out and I've already got 200,000 miles on it. Now, what am I going to do to buy a new car? So again, that's where the forward thinking comes into play. For self-employed guys like me and you that have tax, quarterly tax payments and all that, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that you're going to have a quarterly payment due. And instead of waiting until April 15th, when your taxes are literally due, to figure out what you're going to deal with, you embrace your true expenses and you set money aside as you go. Liberating. It's game changing when you actually start thinking that way.
Okay, I think that's clear. We'll complete on that. So what's 3?
Okay, so 3, roll with the punches. And this is probably my favorite rule, right? Because it basically says, you can read it right there, it's okay to fail, guys. You are going to fail. You are not going to get it right. The beautiful thing about budgeting done right is it's changeable. A budget is a moving, flowing, freeing document, okay? This is not a judgment, guilt, oh my gosh, I screwed up again program. So roll with the punches just simply means, if you're getting close to the end of the month and you look at your clothing budget and you realize you're $500 in the red, you don't throw up your hands and quit or give up. You go, you know what? I overspent in clothing. Maybe you just had to have that new pair of shoes that you ran across when you were at Nordstrom or whatever, and you made the purchase without checking your budget. That's okay. You get home and you have to roll with the punches, which basically means you're going to take a look at the other categories where you might have some money, maybe a travel budget. And you're going to make an adjustment and move a little bit of that travel money to cover the part where you were short in the clothing for that month. It's an ebb and flow. Now, again, if you're always pulling from important categories, what you're doing is you're reminding yourself what your true priorities are. If you think your priority is you want to go to Hawaii in a year and you're trying to set aside a couple $100 a month for that trip, but every time you see the new purse or the new shoe or the new shirt that you think you need and you're pulling it from travel, guess what? Travel's not your priority. Shoes are, or clothes is, or whatever the case, right? So the bottom line is roll with the punches means don't give up. Even if you start this and you struggle and every one of your categories is red, YNAB has a reset category. Scrap it all, throw it in the garbage, and start fresh. Because the key is that you're making the effort. You're trying to retrain your mind how to think around money in terms of what's most important to you. And you're not going to get it right the first time, and that's okay. It's okay to fail.
That's an insight that I'm having right now, which I believe can help buoy the original point which I made, and then you actually corroborated in your deal there, of it being no fun, of it being glum, that whole like
the
drug kind of thing,
because
restrictive, right? Because the reality, and this is the insight I had right now when you were sharing that, is that even if 100% of my budget fails, I'm still further along. I'm still allowed to grant myself that little dopamine squirt. It's simply because I'm becoming aware of what's happening. And my choice in looking into this closer is bringing me further, faster toward where it is that I want to go. Even if 100% of my budget fails, it's still better than status quo.
Amen. In fact, I gotta share this with you, Jesse. So bear with me while I pull up this slide, right? Because this was me, right? You talk about status quo. This was me 7 years ago. I was the guy that was like, you know what? I'm too old. I haven't put away anything for retirement. I'm never going to be able to retire. I'm just going to have to work all my life and somehow figure it out. And maybe my kids will do well and they'll help me out, whatever. I had my head in the sand. And at the end of the day, Cliff Notes version, I had a financial planner that kept after me. He wasn't my financial planner. He was just some guy. He finally convinced me to give him 15 minutes, and he helped me to pull my head out of the sand and realize that it's never too late. So one of the big takeaways from this 15, 20 minutes, whatever we're doing here, guys, I don't care what your financial situation is. I don't care if you've got a boatload of debt. I don't care if you're a late starter like me and you're older. It's never too late to right the ship financially. You can do it, but you've got to be willing to pull your head out of the sand and talk to the right people and to do those necessary 2 or 3 steps that are going to create the hope which can propel you forward.
Fair. So last little sprinkle on that, just to kind of collect myself before we go into what I'm sure is going to be the 4th rule here in a sec, is the last 2 are basically this dance of feeding back, feeding forward, feeding back, feeding forward. Like, to get the whole thing set up in the first place, the idea is I don't have to imagine it. All I have to do is go back with the categories I set in the first deal, right, of what plant to water, go back and look and see what's already been done, have that sort of be the groundwork that I feed then forward. And then as I'm in number 3, watch as it's actually happening. And the behavior that's really going down between, Monday through Monday, looking at that and then knowing that's really where my priorities are. So adjusting accordingly as I go, like you said about the trip to Hawaii thing, if the shoes were more important. So the 2 and 3 are kind of like a constant movement thing, which makes me kind of ask the question, like, how much time am I supposed to be spending on this?
No, it's early on, when you get a paycheck, you're going to spend a little bit of time. So if you get a paycheck or you get a commission check, if you're a commission-based earner or whatever, that's when you're going to spend some time. I recommend that you have a budgeting meeting with your spouse or significant other at least once a week. Now, people that are listening to this, they're going, oh my gosh, I would rather do anything than have a budgeting meeting with my spouse, right? Guys, you're going to look forward to these meetings. These meetings will be fun because maybe for the first time ever in your life, you're going to be on the same page with your spouse around money. Talk about liberating and financial freedom. But You're right, Jesse. These three rules work all in tandem, and they flow together, right? Rule one, which is what's your real priorities. Rule two, you know, embracing your true expenses in terms of what are my expenses really going to be, and taking a back look at history helps you with that. And then you're going to fail. Just know it, and just know that you can adjust that budget in real time. Not a problem.
Okay.